Hey there, and welcome to Business Over Cocktails. I'm Lauren Najar, your host and hype woman, bringing you real talk about entrepreneurship. This is the podcast where we dive into the bold whys, the messy middles, and the game-changing aha moments that lead to success. You'll hear unfiltered stories from entrepreneurs, plus bite-sized solo episodes inside the Business Chasers series, where we cut through the noise and get straight to what actually drives sales, visibility, and growth. So whether you're here to get fired up or finally feel seen in your business journey, pull up a seat, pour your favorite drink, and let's have a real conversation. Thank you everyone for tuning in to Business Over Cocktails. I am Lauren Najar, and today I have Jacquelynn Cotten interviewing me about my business. And so one of the things that I wanted to do in this podcast is I wanted to kind of kick off this whole podcast as giving you as much information about me. I share my story a lot, right? I share that I'm a cancer survivor and I experienced trauma and deaths of my parents when I was in my early 20s. But I feel like there are still some things people don't know about me. And it's really crazy to me. And I think one of the things that actually inspired me to have Jacquelynn interview me is not only are we close, we've known each other for a really long time, but I shared something about, was it last year that, I wouldn't have taken you as like a sports girly. And I'm like, what? Like, I am a sports girly through and through. So even though there are people that I feel like I'm very close to, there are some things people still don't know about me. So I thought of Jacquelynn. We have great conversations all the time. I have Jacquelynn here to interview me on this podcast. And I just need to say, first and foremost, this is the first episode we are recording. This is not obviously going to be the first episode released. So if you're listening to this, you've already listened to multiple episodes. This is going to be in succession of that. I think it might be episode 3. So I'm excited. So again, I just want to then, if you don't know me, if you want to know more about me, I am Lauren Najar. I am a business and marketing strategist. I host in-person events called Growth and Connect events and dinners and retreats. And I am starting a local Northwest Indiana educational business called the Social Savvy Society to provide local entrepreneurs and business owners with social media and branding strategies with my partner, Jessica Enriquez. So that is also brand new. And I just said that out loud for the first time. Super crazy. So I want Jacquelynn to introduce herself first, and then Jacquelynn's just going to take it away and interview me. So Jacquelynn, tell us about yourself.
First off, this is so cool that you're doing this, because I know it was just like when I was visiting you in Chicago, you were like, I kind of want to do a podcast, and you're going for it. So I just want to say I'm so excited and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
And I'm honored, and we're not going to cry, but I'm so honored to be the person that gets to ask you the questions out of all the people in the internet world or your family or anybody. Like, it's me. So thank you. Okay, y'all. I'm Jacquelynn Cotten. I'm from Mississippi. Don't hold it against me. I thought that Lauren's last name was Najar up until I met her in Chicago, and we've been friends for like 4 years. So anyway. But it's funny that you mentioned the sports girly thing, because I thought I knew like everything about you, because I felt like those parasocial vibes. I was like, I feel like we're such good friends, and we are now, like in real life and everything. But there's so much the world is about to find out. I feel like, and these are things I wanted to ask you on my show. So this is so cool. But anyway, like I said, from Mississippi, and if you can't tell, I'm a colorful personality. I'm also a podcast host of Just Women Talking Shit. I am a multi-passionate entrepreneur. I have 2 bio babies of my own, and I have 3 bonus babies with my husband. And I'm one of Lauren's best friends. I'm going to just say I'm one of her best friends. I'm going to claim it. And I'm so excited to be here because she's taught me so much. She just makes you feel accepted, really accepted, and guides you in the most loving way. And so I can't wait to find out more about her. That's me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing that. And I just want to say too, like we connected 4 years ago now, pretty much, like maybe give or take 4 years, 2021, I think you said. And we kind of connected on a friend level. And then I had you do some work for me in my agency. So we worked together. And then now we've been like coach and client for like a year and a half on and off.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we got to meet in person 4 months ago. And so you referenced Chicago and how we met in person. And that was 4 months ago. And that was so exciting. And we keep talking about we want to meet up again. I keep trying to get her to come to Chicago in the summer, because if you are familiar with Chicago in the summer versus the winter, obviously the winter is not it. But the Chicago summertime shy is the best in the country, if not the world, I feel. So, but I'm going to let Jacquelynn take it away and ask me questions, and for her to, get to know me more. She doesn't already, but hopefully that you guys can get some insight as well as how I've built my business and the inner workings of my business.
Well, here we go. You're on the hot seat. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'll go grill you, girl. Okay. I'm curious because I know that you were in the banking industry for a while, right? What is it that made you decide to even start your own business?
So I think this takes me back to like when I was like 19 and I was in college. I definitely was a type of person who, and I think this came from my mom. She would always kind of tell me things. And like looking back, this doesn't sound nice, but I think at the time I took it as a compliment. Was like, she's like, you're just like very like authoritative. She didn't use that word, but she used the word bitch. She's like, she goes, I can just see you arguing and being a lawyer and just like bossing people around. She always saw me as like a manager of something and like running things. And I took that as a compliment at the time, but like now I'm thinking about like how a mom talks to her like 16 or 17-year-old daughter. I'm like, I would never tell daughter that. Like, you're just like bitchy. But I guess like I understand where she was coming from, and maybe she didn't know how to articulate how she felt about me. But I remember then going into finance in college, and I just had this mindset that I wanted to make a bunch of money, and I just felt like, okay, like working really hard and being in a very high stressful job, and I wanted to be a day trader or work on like a trading floor, and that equated a lot of money to me, right? And so I envisioned living in Chicago, having a boat in Lake Michigan. But then that was kind of my career path, and that's what I wanted to do. And that's why I got into banking. That was supposed to be a resume builder. Well, 2 weeks after getting my job at this bank as just like a bank teller, part-time bank teller, still in college, my dad passed away. And then 11 months later was diagnosed with cancer the first time, and then 6 months later diagnosed again. And so there was like that 5-year span where when I came out of all of that, I was just like, what the hell do I do now? And so like my life changed so dramatically in those 5 years where I was just like, that doesn't sound nice to me anymore. And at the time, like I've spent all this time in banking on and off. I worked through treatment. I worked through all of these things. And I just was not fulfilled, and I did not want this path. And I just wanted to find a different way. And I knew I wanted to work for myself. And I was just tired of like listening to people that like I knew more than, and people were telling me, and it's funny to say it that way, right? But like I truly, I'm like, why am I listening to these people that are just so miserable at their own jobs? And this is just not what I want in my life. And at the time too, I had met my husband and my two best friends. All three of them were doing things in their careers that they absolutely loved. And so I just like was searching for fulfillment. And so I actually started Herbalife. I started Beachbody, and I think like MLMs were coming up amongst the rankings of like, this is how you can earn extra money. And that all sounded very cool to me. And it really just kept snowballing into other things. And as I will credit like Herbalife and Beachbody and all these MLMs getting me familiar with social media and using it as a sales tool. And that instantly was like, oh my God, I love this, because that's just how my brain works. I love sales. I love making money and stuff. And so it just kind of snowballed into that. And then one thing led to another. And I found like, oh, people are actually like business coaches. Like people charge $30,000 a year to be a business coach inside a business. Like that was wild to me. And now that doesn't matter, because like what's 30,000 divided by 12? It's like 2,500 or something, right? It's like, that's not that much. And so, yeah, that's just kind of like my origin story, I guess, of how I found business coaching.
I didn't realize I've never worked in finance, but you said something, I love to make money. I don't think I've ever just said that out loud. Like, oh, I love to make money. But there's so many coincidences, like the MLMs and stuff. I feel like a lot of people entrepreneurs may have gotten their start that way too. And huh, didn't know that. So cool. So do you feel like you have like one defining moment? Was it, when your dad passed away? Was it the cancer? Or was it just like a smorgasbord of life happening?
I think it's all of it, but I've been open about this on my social media for about a year and a half now. I've been going to therapy, and so a lot of what I've talked about and a lot of the things that I struggle with are things that have happened, maybe just how I was brought up and specifically my relationship with my mom. And I remember like I was the type of person, I definitely was like your typical type A person before she passed away. I had a clean room all the time. I chased perfectionism. And that's just because I think that's the level she expected all the time, because it was never like, oh, Lauren, you did good. It was like, why didn't you do better? And that's just kind of like the mindset for me when I was growing up. And that's just what I expected. Or if I did something good, that should have been normal and that is expected. And so I recently had this reflection, but like it was just like a light switch where all of a sudden I was like, I wasn't a slob, but after she passed away, like I just wouldn't put my clothes away. My clean clothes would just pile up on the floor. I didn't spend any time in my room. I used to spend all my time in my bedroom and just like not hang out with like my parents, my family, like typical teenager stuff. But I just like all of a sudden just like something like snapped in me, and like perfectionism was gone, did not care anymore. And I think if I truly think of like the catalyst to all of these things might have been like when my mom passed away. And that was 2008, and I was still in college for a couple more years. I really just didn't chase the perfectionism. It was like maybe subconsciously, like this person's gone. So like, who was I trying to impress, or who was I chasing for like perfectionism or approval? And yeah, like ever since then, I just wasn't chasing like these huge milestones anymore. And I think like now that I've kind of like, it's been over a decade since all of these things have happened, I definitely call myself maybe type A minus, because I do still catch myself chasing that perfectionism or wanting to do things better. But I do feel like it's in a healthy way where it's just me against me, and that's fine. And I'm always pushing myself to be better, but I also know I need to be better about celebrating myself, which I'm horrible at. And that still comes from the conditioning from growing up, I think. So if I were to put my finger on it, it definitely would be from my mom. And like when she passed away and that was unexpected, like it just like my world as I knew it or who I was just like disappeared and went away.
Oh, I don't know if I've ever really expressed it to you, but like your resilience is so inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thank you for saying that though, because I feel like if I say I don't celebrate myself or that I'm not proud of myself, but resilience is definitely a word I use to describe myself. So I thank you for saying that, because I am proud to say
Yeah.
I'm resilient.
Resilient AF, as the kids would say. Oh, man. So if we bring it back, because it sounds like your upbringing and then just the drive for perfectionism, the drive to make a lot of money, all those things like feed into, which I think every entrepreneur, especially one that doesn't give up after the first couple of years, like has these qualities that you speak of. So I'm curious, like when you think back to the early days of starting your brand and building your brand, because I know that your brand is ever evolving. It's been really cool to sit back and watch it evolve. Like I remember some of your first photos were you with beer or like a glass of wine, and you had like this little black jacket on. I think it was like a biker jacket almost, like this little leather jacket. And I was like, oh my God, she like dresses like me. That's when we really start connecting, is I was like, oh my God, she loves beer and fajitas. And I was like, oh my God. But when you think back to like building the brand and as it evolves, do you have something that comes to mind that like felt like the hardest thing? And then can we go to the extreme opposite, and like what has been the most exciting thing about building your brand?
Ooh, I wish I had the journal with me somewhere. It's somewhere in my office here. So I have a journal entry of maybe like right when I decided to pivot from being just like social media manager to actually doing like business coaching. The hardest thing was to think that A, strangers would pay me, and B, like I had to like talk to people on Zoom and like do sales calls. And at the time, I was learning from other mentors who were preaching scripts at the time. And I didn't really believe in myself at all to sell in the way I needed to sell or that I was being taught to sell. So I remember like really wanting to nail the sales script. And that's what I've learned in my corporate world too. Like we had to learn how to sell and say certain things a certain way. And so like I'm not knocking anybody, but that's just how I learned. And I knew that's how you should learn as well. I don't do scripts anymore, but I think that was the hardest thing is like, I remember I have a journal entry. It's at the back of my journal. And this was instructed to me by my mentor at the time. It's like write in the back page of your journal and say, what are the things that you're nervous about? And I was just like jumping on Zoom, doing Zoom calls with strangers. And like people are going to actually pay me to like help them in their business. And I've never met them in person. Like it's just so foreign to me. And I think like I would say leading and being in authority or just like accepting the fact that I knew what I was talking about, that would be my hardest thing is like maybe then that encompasses believing in myself that I actually could do this. Because again, we talked about like all the MLMs and stuff and that is easy. Like people just literally tell you what to do and oh, you got to DM 100 people a day or something. And you have scripts and templates and all this stuff, but like creating your own business is just you. And sure, like I had a mentor, but I feel like I was still on my own and I'm the only one on the other end of this call asking someone to pay me $3,000 to like be their business coach. I think that would be the hardest thing. The easiest thing I think now is again, like the confidence piece. And I think it all stems from confidence. And I think I'm always working on confidence, but I've been running this business now for 6.5 years. And what comes easy to me now is doing things differently. And before, it was so hard for me to want to do things differently. You know, I always said like, I hated that I always like wanted to ask for sales calls because now you know full well, like I don't do those very often. And that's not really part of my funnel ever. And I'm all about selling the DMs and building relationships. And I wish, like, I don't have regrets, but I wish that I owned a lot of these aspects that I knew in my gut that felt better to me at the earlier stages of my business. And now, I mean, I own them now and I've been owning them for a while, but I think like, even if you don't have an online business, like I knew I had sales experience and I have business experience and finance experience. Like I didn't have the confidence or belief in myself that I actually knew maybe more than a lot of people that are building businesses to this day and maybe look more successful than me. But I know I have more knowledge and I just needed to build that confidence piece of myself. So I think like I love the fact that I can do things differently now. And I really strive to think outside the box and kind of like this podcast, right? Like everyone wants to put out marketing and educational podcasts, but I'm a business coach, but I want to set out and do a podcast interviewing all my favorite entrepreneurs, which side note, you're going to come back for, and we're going to do an episode about you. So yeah, so I think like that's the biggest thing is like, I think the easiest part is like getting rid of those invisible restraints and like just doing things how you want to do them and truly embracing that aspect.
Okay. Well, what would you say? I'm excited now, but what do you feel like has been the most exciting thing about building it as well?
I think just like when I had that light bulb moment of like, I literally can create anything that I at any time. And this has honestly been such a good conversation lately with some other people. It truly, like within the last couple of weeks, is we put these invisible restraints on ourselves that we have to like play in this sandbox and we can't go and explore or then go build our own sandboxes. And honestly, I will say, I think I've credit a lot of this confidence, newfound confidence from being a mom. Because if I think about like, man, like I had all this time, I left my 9 to 5. Before I was pregnant, I was like, there were 6 months there where I wasn't pregnant, didn't have a 9 to 5. And I'm like, what the hell did I even do with my time? And like, I could have created so many things. And now being a mom and having so many limited things, I'm not only do I have more clients and like I'm doing more stuff, but like I'm going to in-person events, I'm traveling, I'm hosting retreats, things that I would never have done beforehand when I had so much more time. Now I'm just like, I can literally create anything I want whenever I want. And why not? And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I think that's the most exciting thing is like, yes, you're an entrepreneur and that should you should think that like, yeah, you can create anything. You can stop and start at any time. But I think, again, we still put these invisible restraints on ourselves and we're just like, oh, wait, I have to wait until this, or I have to wait 6 months to do this, or I don't know enough yet. It's like, well, when is that time? When is that time going to be? Like, why are you waiting? Who cares? So that's the most exciting
That's their
thing.
most exciting. Yeah, that you can create. I needed to hear that today, Lauren, because I've been sitting on the
Mm.
sidelines, like pouting here lately. I'm really excited to. I didn't know I was getting to come back on the show. What? Okay. All right.
I thought we talked about that. I truly think we talked
Did
about that.
we?
But
Oh, we did.
yeah, because
We
I think,
did. We did.
yes,
But
we're recording your episode in 2
that's
weeks.
right.
So
That's right. I don't know why I forgot about that. Well, okay. Speaking of the whole, confidence and starting things and all that, because that's like that's sometimes the hardest part. I know for me, like getting started and what you said, somebody's gonna pay me to do this and this, like that's so difficult. Some people don't even get started, but then when you do get started, you have so many obstacles coming your way or so many decisions, and it's very overwhelming building a brand. So I'm curious, is there a time that you can remember where you were just like, I want to quit? I don't know if I want to do this.
yeah, I actually remember the day. It was 2019. It was like 6 months into my business. I had a lot of early success where I signed, I think, like 5 clients within 2 months of like literally starting my business. I did not have a website. I didn't have an email list. I didn't have a Facebook group. I literally just like posted on Facebook every single day. I didn't even have an Instagram. I post on Facebook every day and asked for strategy sessions, like free strategy sessions, and I booked like 5 clients. And I remember, so this was 2019. This was going into year 2 of my husband and I living in Chicago. We had just moved to Chicago. And so of course, like we wanted to like enjoy the city and do things and be, and just not stay in our apartment all the time. And we had an opportunity that evening. Like my husband was ending work early. I was off for my day job that day and a Cubs game. We were like, oh yeah, like let's go to the Cubs game this day. Cause like literally when like we live in the city, we can just take a train there. It takes 20 minutes to get there. And tickets were like $9 because it was the beginning of the season and it was a weeknight, like super cheap. And we were buying tickets the day of. And I had agreed to meet someone for like a chat or like a live training or something. And I just all of a sudden, I was like, no, I can't do this. But like, I was like, wait. And I don't know what happened, but I had like a physical response to like, I don't want to do this interview. I want to go to this game. And why am I building this business? And not only did I have a day job, and the day job definitely was stressful. So like I was already very stressed out from that and I hated my job. And I didn't have consistent work hours either. Like I would randomly have a Tuesday off and then have to work Saturdays. I just was so overworked. And then I was building this business on top of that. And I just had done a really crazy launch for the very first time. The launch that you have to send 100 emails, a million DMs, post 15 times a day. And I didn't get any sales from this program. And all of my one-on-one clients were ending. And I was just like, I felt a physical reaction. I remember just like crying. And I'm like, this is not the business I wanted to build. And so I went to the Cubs game and I canceled on that person. And from then on, I really didn't work hard in my business. And I kind of just like slowly came back. That whole summer, I trained for the marathon. And so if you've ever trained for a marathon, it is a part-time job. You are literally running like 10, 15 hours a week. So all that summer, that took up a lot of my time. I am still working a day job. I had actually changed day jobs that year as well, where I wasn't commuting anymore. I had a much more consistent work hours and I didn't work weekends. So that got better. But I didn't have any one-on-one clients that whole summer. I think I might have made $25 a month, $50 a month because I had like a really small membership. But that would have been a turning point. Maybe not that I wanted to like quit my business, but I definitely didn't work on it every day as much as I was. And I just took a step back and I just let the rest of the year kind of like go by. And I was very like slowly coming back into like, okay, how am I going to actually do this? And so in a lot of ways, I feel like 2020 or the end of 2019 going into 2020 was definitely when I like restarted my business. I feel like you can kind of look at that as a restart. And then I think pretty much since 2020, I've, made like multiple 5 figures, if not 6 figures a year. But 2020 definitely was a catalyst to like doing business my own way finally, and not just like doing crazy launches anymore. But it was like May 2019 when I just like felt like I just like hit burnout and I just like collapsed.
Well, it sounds like you had the realization that a lot of us have, that this is actually not the way I want to build it. And you started to build it in a more, what is the word?
Like sustainable.
Yeah, sustainable way, which I've always loved about you. Like you have such a very calm nature when it comes to business. And it looks like you're having fun while you're doing it. So maybe the time off was good. But I'm curious, like, what do you think pulled you through? Was it taking a step back and being like, oh, how do I actually want to build this? I don't want to miss out on plans. That's the whole reason I want to get on my job, is so I don't miss out on stuff. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And it's a cool realization. And you asking this question, I don't think I've ever thought of this before, but how cool is it that like I didn't give up? Like I still had a vision and a dream, and I didn't really know what that was. And I still think that I wanted to have a business, and I really just didn't want to like leave completely. I still wanted to have a business. And so that's so interesting. This question is so interesting because I've truly have never thought of it that way. And I'm proud of myself in 2019 for not like giving it up, even though I took a step back. Yeah, I will say like when I came back in 2020, I did launch kind of like that again. But I think I understood it more because I learned from past mistakes. And so then it wasn't really crazy. I still didn't like it. And I still don't do it now to this day. But I wanted to give it the good old college try for a second time and just take the advice of my mentor that I had at that point. But again, I think, so what happened, my mentor that I had had twice before was starting a mastermind. And we've always talked. We're definitely like friendly in that way, and we still keep in touch. And we had a very honest conversation. And I think the biggest thing that I had said to her is like, I don't want to lose myself, because when I worked with her, and she was my very first business coach, she knew my superpower. She's kind of like, she knew that I'm more into the strategy and hands-on. And so she really pulled at me to do that. She really brought out the fact that I build relationships. And so I started owning that. And she effortlessly said it. Like, she wasn't just like, she didn't bring that out of me. She was just like, Lauren, you're a natural connector. And then she said something else. And that's what stuck out to me. And like, oh my God, I am so good at this, because I do that in my real life. And so like, she knew me, and I felt very comfortable having this conversation because I didn't want to join this mastermind and like lose myself and just like, she's going to tell me things to do and I'm going to do them, but I want to do it my own way as well. And so she really understood that. And so I think that's why I had a lot of success and have had now success over the years since 2020, because she really didn't allow me to lose myself. And so, yeah, we can say like, yeah, to build a business that fits your lifestyle and things like that. But I feel like I've gotten better at that. I don't think I'm perfect at that yet either, because I still feel like I still need to work harder to the goals that I want to do. But I still am not letting it encroach on certain boundaries that I've set for myself. So I will say over the last 5 years, I've gotten better at it. And I do appreciate the life that I have now and the boundaries I've set. Granted, I think like sometimes things get in the way, and that's frustrating. But I love my business so much, where maybe I didn't love it 5 or 6 years ago. I love working, but it doesn't feel like work to me now, because I think I'm working in a way that's aligned to me. And like you said, I make it fun and I have fun doing it. And then it goes back to me like, I love the numbers and I love the wins and I love the money and I love the sales. And I celebrate that because it's like, yeah, I hit another number, and that's the masculine side of me. And so I love doing that. I love that aspect. And I love like the chase and like the adrenaline that you get, but it's not in a way that burns me out.
I love that. So when we speak about like you as a person, because I just keep going back to the sports thing, and you're wearing like, I think a sweatshirt, or on our calls, you'll be like wearing a hoodie, but then in the city, you're like dressed to the nines. And then like, I just feel like I keep finding things out about you. So I can only imagine that there are like some misconceptions, or I don't know, people assume they know everything about you, right? Especially when you put yourself out into the internet world and we're like putting ourselves out there to be judged. But I'm curious, do you feel like there is a misconception that people have about you, have about your business, anything like that? Because everybody has an opinion.
I can't think of anything recent, but there's definitely been, I think the first thing is that I'm always worried, maybe not so much anymore, but I don't lead with my story because I don't want that to be what people associate me with and that might be just a personal thing, because for so long I went through all of these things so publicly, my parents passing away. And then because I didn't have my parents, and I went through cancer, I was the one that had to update everyone. And I'm the one that had to speak for myself. When like normally you have maybe a spouse or parents, because I was still pretty young. Usually you have parents or someone that's going to speak for you and update you on, your condition and things like that. And so I think I just went through everything so publicly that for so long I was known as the girl with cancer or my parents passed away. And so when I actually got a new job in the city right before I left my job for good in the corporate world for good, I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone I was a cancer survivor. I didn't tell anyone. And it was so nice. I was just a normal white girl working in a bank, like married, didn't have any kids, like in my early 30s. No one knew that about me. And it was so nice. I did play that card though when they wanted me to come back to the office. I'm like, yeah, I'm not coming back to the office for my last week of this job. I don't want to be around people's germs. I have a compromised immune system and I'm a cancer survivor, and no one knew that. And they thought I was lying. Like I was just making stuff up. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be at this job for another week. I'm not going to come and like set up my desk. Like, what do you want me to do? I'm not going to be here. So I was just like playing that card. But I think the other thing is like, I think there is a misconception a lot of times. Maybe that I don't know. I think like if you judge a book by its cover, like maybe you see me and you know that I'm married and maybe that my husband funds my little hobby here. Like I feel like that's maybe a generic misconception, not only just for me, but I think for a lot of people. And I think the other thing is that maybe that I've had it easy because because here's the thing, I don't look like a cancer survivor. I look like a normal person. I had a baby in a natural way. I live in a house. I live in the city. And I think like that's probably the biggest misconception I feel like maybe people don't know about me is that I've had a very easy life. And I would invite them to, and I don't know if I would care to share I don't know if I want to change people's opinions. I think that's what I'm trying to say. But I think like, that's probably the biggest thing that I think people might think about me is that I'm a business coach and I've done all these things and I must make a lot of money. And, I've had it very easy. My husband funds my business ventures or something like that. And I think that would be the biggest thing I would invite people to not think about is like that everyone has a story and you don't know about it. And that's essentially why maybe I'm creating this podcast too, is like, we have so many stories that people don't know, and it's okay that you don't want to share them and not make it like your aesthetic and personality, because I don't want to do that. It is definitely a part of me, and I will share it to help and benefit people, but I don't want that to define me. So I don't lead with that.
Yeah. Again, like some people enjoy, kind of writing their stories though. So I've always found it I'm very out in the open, mental health advocate. So we're a little different there. But what I've respected is the balance and professionalism that you have and the consistency with that professionalism. And it's like, you got to like jump into Lauren's world before you get to know her. Like you're like this precious little onion and we're slowly peeling back layers, but you're kind of a tough cookie at first, in my opinion. I'm like, I would have never known, no offense, like how soft you are on the inside, because you do come off as this badass business bitch. But I love that. I love that about you so much. So after like letting me in a little bit more on those misconceptions, because people they have, their ideas of what's going on in your life, I'm sure. But what would you say like a real day in your life looks like whenever it comes to business, being a mom, being a wife? Now you're hosting events, you're public speaking, you started a podcast. Like, could we say super mom? Everybody wants to probably know, like, how does this happen? What does a day in your life even look like?
Yeah, I will say first and foremost, I would not be able to do 99% of those things if I was a single mom, and B, that I didn't have access to a mother-in-law who's retired and can watch my daughter 4 days a week. And I know that that is a luxury where I don't have to pay for childcare and I don't have to pay for daycare. Like, it's so expensive. And so I know that that is luxury. So I just need to say that because, like, that is why I'm able to just make these plans and do these things out of, like, without even thinking about it, because I know I'm going to have this availability. So yesterday was Monday, my day. I started Pilates in the morning. My husband gets our daughter up, so I leave pretty much before she gets up. I did Pilates. I grabbed a coffee because my husband is gone this whole entire week, so I am solo parenting this week. And I wanted a coffee because I knew how busy this week's going to be. I did therapy in the morning, so that's just like a virtual therapy session. Then I actually met someone locally here for coffee, and we talked for 2 hours. I did some work after therapy before I met her. Then she had to leave, and I did some work for a half an hour. And I don't do calls on Mondays. Like, Mondays are like where I get all my work done pretty much for the week. I go to physical therapy on Mondays at 3 p.m. to 4. Had some errands to run, came home, made dinner, played with my daughter until bath time at 6:45, put her to sleep at 7:30. I had to pick up toys and do all the things. I'm finally sitting down, maybe ready to like relax for a little bit before bedtime. Around 8:15, I worked from like 8:15 to 10:15 last night, and then I go to bed. And so a lot of times where if I'm preaching boundaries and stuff, like my boundaries are definitely a lot different, where I have to find the time sometimes to work. And I do stay up a little bit later than normal to work. And so, like, normally if my husband's home, he would do bedtime and I would work. And then we would have some time together before bed and, I would get work done. But this week it's going to be a lot of like later nights of me working. And so, like, I think, again, that was an invisible restraint I would put on myself. Like, oh, I'm not supposed to work late, or I'm not supposed to do this, or I'm not supposed to do that. And now, like, as a mom, like, I have to find the times, pockets of my time to work. And I don't mind because I like what I do and I want to go after my goals. And I think a lot of that is also propelled by like my daughter, and I want to show her what's possible and what we can do. But yeah, I think like boundaries as far as like events and things like that, I plan them on days where it makes sense for my family and where it's not going to put a bunch of pressure on us. I don't really say yes to a lot of weekend events. I will do things maybe on like Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday nights. I don't really do anything on Thursdays or Fridays, but if Thursdays I have gone to events, but usually that's my husband's gym time on Thursday evening. So like, I don't know, just I always put my family first, and like what are our boundaries first. And like, I don't want to make it harder on our family. So that's my day in the life of yesterday.
Oh, I just love it because I think a lot of entrepreneurs think that got people that preach hustle, hustle, grind, and then you have people that teach flow, and it's just like all about the balance. And so I'm finding that too. And if we make it more difficult than we have to, I think, when it comes to navigating that. And you are like, I feel like the embodiment after working with you, getting to spend time with you and everything. Like, you've got it figured out as far as balance goes whenever it comes to the work-life balance. I have just a couple more questions before we go. Do you have like one thing that you wish that entrepreneurs either talked about more openly, or because I feel like we gatekeep a lot, or some people gatekeep, but also like for the people that don't gatekeep who are sitting in the peanut gallery, like there are a lot of things we want to discuss. Maybe it's money or like imposter syndrome, whatever. And we just kind of keep it inside and we don't talk about it and think that, oh, this is just part of the experience. So from your experience building a business like thus far, do you have anything that comes to mind whenever it comes to that?
Yeah, I'm big on transparency. I think a lot of people share a lot of BS in this industry for sure. Like, I think there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. And so one thing that I've always tried to do is be as transparent as possible. And again, right in line, you asking me all of these questions, and I'm literally, I don't even know these questions. I haven't prepared anything for them. I think like money would be probably the easiest answer. Yes, people can share their wins and the fact like, oh, I just had, a 30K launch. But, and I think more so than not, people are now being more transparent. They'll say like, I had a 30K launch, but my expenses were 15K or something. And people don't understand that, right? Like, And I think that goes to like even just the normal people too. Like if I say I made $50,000 in my business this year, my friends who think that I made $50,000 this year don't understand that I probably only took home 20K or 30K for the year, right? And the misconception of, I think, even just from an outside perspective, if you're not an entrepreneur, is like you're making all this money all the time. It's like, no, like there's taxes, like there's bills you have to pay. There's maybe even assistance or then platforms that we pay for. So I think like that's the biggest thing is I'm always striving for transparency. And I think like the more transparent you are is the more authentic you can be. And like you can't fake that. You can't fake authenticity and you can't fake transparency. Like you can share all the screenshots you want, but you can like literally Google screenshots. So like there's people can smell that, I think.
Yeah, this is so true. So true. Well, do you have like any big dreams for this podcast? Do you see it going anywhere big, or do you just kind of riding the wave? I know you've got an image in your mind, I'm sure.
I do. Thank you for bringing that up because I meant to say this at the beginning. This podcast is called Business Over Cocktails, and we are clearly not drinking a cocktail, and we're not anywhere where we are drinking cocktails. But my big dream for this is eventually doing this in person over cocktails and maybe dressed to the nines or in a black hoodie because it's fancy. Who knows? Yes, I have good sweatshirts and then sweatshirts I wear when I'm not appearing on video. This is a good sweatshirt. So I think that's my biggest thing is like, that's my biggest vision is like doing it at like a bar type speakeasy where we do just have like a cocktail and it's very lounge vibe and very conversational. That's what I want this podcast to be.
Sign me up, especially if it's like a live broadcast or like a live session. I want to sit there and I just want to watch. Like, it's my friend.
Yeah.
That's my friend.
Yep. That's the dream. That's the dream. Any other questions for me?
Yeah, I think I have one more just for everybody listening, and it's probably going to be to your younger self too. But like, what would you tell your younger self and what would you tell the person that is building a business? Because it is so hard. Like, we're not going to pretend like it's not hard. It gets easier. Like, it's simple things that stack up, but it's very discouraging. And especially, we were just talking about the money and like the screenshots, and I'm guilty of that. I've even said it like, yeah, my 15K month becomes a 15K year. So it is kind of smoke and mirrors. So in the world of social media where we have instant gratification, where it appears that everyone's doing well, what are your words of wisdom to your younger self and to the person who's maybe just like, I don't know if this is for me?
I would say like whatever you want to create, like you can create it. And I know that a lot of times it comes with a lack of confidence or you need more confidence. So the biggest thing I could tell you that where you could build more confidence is keep those promises to yourself, even just the littlest of things. And it could be like, oh, I need to go to the gym and I need to go to the gym after work today. And then you don't go. And then you say that again, like, oh, I'm so bad at going to the gym. It's like now you're talking bad to yourself and now you're just downplaying yourself. So what if you just keep a little promise to yourself? And I bet you the more promises you keep to yourself, the more confidence you're going to have, because that's literally what happened with me. Is I started treating myself better and I started to keep promises to myself. And just like I follow Leela Hormozi and she is one of my favorite people to follow. And she has something that's called fuck your mood, follow the plan. And that's been my mantra for the last year. It's just, I want to hit these goals and I need to do it. And despite how I feel, or if I'm in a bad mood or sad or anxious, that means I should go to the gym or I should do something for myself. So the more promises you keep to yourself, the more you build self-trust, which then increases your confidence. And I think that at any point, if like you think you can or can't do something, then that's the truth. So if you believe you can do something, then you can do it. So then do it, right? Like it can be that simple. If you think you can't do something, well, then you can't. If you believe that you can't, then don't do it. So you have to figure that out for yourself. But I always say, why not? Like, why not you? Why not do the thing? And I'm always like wanting you to think bigger because you can, and everyone's capable of doing things that they want to do.
I got the full body chills on that one, Lauren. Boop. What is it? You say boop. Oh, gosh. Well, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for letting me be the person that got to ask you some of the most important questions
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. No, truly, thank you for doing this with me. I feel like we could talk even longer. I'm sure. Maybe you have a million more questions to ask me. I don't know.
No, I'm all done. That was so.
Thank you, Jacquelynn, so much. This is Jacquelynn Cotten again. You can follow her on Instagram at Jacquelynn Cotten. I feel like when I say your name, I almost develop a Southern accent. Like
Jacquelynn Cotten, y'all.
Because if I say it from like Chicago, it's like Jacquelynn Cotten. We say it like Chicago. That's how we talk. But Jacquelynn, yeah, whatever. Okay, Jacquelynn Cotten. I said her name 50 million times.
I was gonna say you have an episode on the show too, talking about some other stuff. So
yeah, so Jacquelynn's podcast, Just Women Talking Shit, we just recorded this a few months ago. It was episode 100. So you can hear a lot about more stuff that you've asked me about my business and some of the successes in my business that I've had. If you've loved this episode, please leave me a review because this is a baby podcast and we are trying to get known. And I want to hear what entrepreneurs you want me to have an interview. I would love to know. Come hang out on Instagram with me at Lauren Najar. I might even have an Instagram for this podcast eventually, so you'll be the first to know. And yeah, thank you.
You're so welcome. I love you.
Love you. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Business Over Cocktails, where real stories and bold business moves come to life. If this episode lit something up in you, share it with a friend, tag me at Lauren Najar or the podcast page at Business Over Cocktails. Make sure to leave a quick review as well. It helps more than you know. Until next time, keep chasing what matters and building the business that feels like you. Cheers.